Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to today's unique episode on the channel in which we're going to talk a little bit about getting organized with war games and board games. In particular, I'm going to show some of the storage tray solutions that I've created for specific games for Cube4Me. And if you're not familiar with Cube4Me, they make wargame trays for storing counters and other components in regular games as well. And one of the things I do on the side is I make specific tray kit sets for specific games that then go up on their website. In addition to showing some of the sets that I've made for specific games over the past few months, we're also giving away not one, but two $50 store credits to Cube4Me. Good anywhere in the world except for a couple of countries. So stick around until the end of the video if you want to find out how you can enter into that drawing. Let's get started and take a look at our first game. First game that I want to show you, ASL 1807 Battles of Napoleon. Now it has over 1,100 counters in the game, but a full snug close. And that's one of the things I try to do when I build a kit is, can I get all the counters in their trays and then get them back in the box without there being what we call a lid lift. Now, the game comes with some cubes, some markers and things like that for various purposes in the game. And what I did was I repurposed some of the card trays to hold these, because sometimes these are really nice to have them just sitting off on the side of the game, so you can kind of just pop these open here, and then you've got them off on the side. They're really easy for access and gameplay. You don't have to take them in and out of things. You just put them out in the tray, and then when you're done, put them back in, and then close them back up. These, of course, are optional. You don't need these for the set or anything like that, but they're handy to have sometimes for counters like that. Now, for this one, I used 3 trays. One tray for the French units, which I can see right here. And let's get rid of this glare by opening them up. And one of the things I'm thinking of when I'm building a tray set is I'm trying to make them as impactful in setup as I possibly can. I want the setup to be fast. And so this is a thin tray right here, and this one here, they make 2 different thicknesses, an 8mm tray and then a 15mm tray. So I used 2 of the 8mm trays to store the units from both sides. So I could have fit them all into one deeper tray, but I think this is really handy to have them 2 trays like this, because then Russian player can take one tray, French player can take the other tray, and you can be each doing your own setup without having to fight over the same tray and get your fingers in the same tray or stuff like that. Also, these are all organized by division. So they match up perfectly with the order of battle. And there's a number of scenarios in this game, so I feel like when there's a number of scenarios, it's best to organize them by setup and division and unit organization. So it's going to be really easy if we look back in here, for example. Let me pull this out of the way. If we look here, this is the French order of battle right here. It's got all of the divisions with their colors and things like that. And so then when you're looking for them for the setup, you can just reference them right here, and they all match up by color and name and stuff like that. So it should be really easy and fast to make the setups work for both scenarios. Then lastly in this one, there are a ton of markers in this game. So I used one thick 15mm tray to hold all the markers, and they're all sorted by type. So 1s and 2s are up here, 3s and 4s down here, 5s and 6s, 7s and 8s and things like that. So again, this would be something I can envision you can keep right beside the game map. You don't have to take things in and out. It's all right there. And one of the things I really like about these trays is they have a very thin spine, which means 2 things. One, it's very easy to see everything that's in the trays. You don't have thick walls that are kind of blocking it, and it's not blocked. It's, it's transparent, so you can see right through them. That's one thing. And then also, it just creates a massive amount of space for storing counters in here, as we'll see in some of these other solutions. So there's 1,120 counters, and I think about 600 or 700 in here, and they are stored in here with room to spare. Really easy to fit them all in. So that's the solution for ASL 1807. I want to show you Silent War 2.0 next, which has, again, one of the problems with this one is, and one of the reasons why I like the storage capacity of these trays, this one has 8 counter sheets, and they're big counters, just stacked with all of the US submarines, basically, that participated in the Pacific Theater of War. So I only had here in the top to work with this. So we're looking right now, just kind of pulling the counters out. We can see here, these are the US submarines, and I'll talk about those momentarily. This is the entire Japanese Navy. And things didn't quite fit perfectly, so I had to bring some of the Japanese Navy and some of the markers actually are over here in this one. But there's only, you've got 8 counter sheets, and you've literally got here a little bit under 1.5 inches of space to work with. So I was able to take 3 shallow trays, and what we can see here, these are some of the overflow US subs here, and these are I think Dutch subs and British subs are in here, and then these are all of the markers for the game, and then the Japanese subs are here. Some of the overflow units for the Japanese Navy go in here, but that was all in one tray. And then all of the Japanese Navy. Now this new deluxe version comes with the Imperial Japanese Navy expansion, which gives you all of the unique names for all of the ships. And the Japanese Navy here should be really easy to work with because it's all organized. For the most part, I was to keep individual types of ships and individual trays that needed, because it's such a tight fit, I needed to overlap a little bit. Like here's battleships and some carriers and things like that. But for the most part, they're organized by like 1 or maybe 2 categories of ship per container. But then in here, the way you play the campaign game is the submarines come in chronological order. So the top left is all the war start submarines, and then as you're playing the game, you're going to be just pulling them out because these are all organized by chronological order. So we now got 42, 1943, 1944, and then 1945. So as you're playing, you're just kind of pulling the counters out here. And these also hold, even though these are the shallow trays, I think I got like 4 or 5 in each one of these counters, in each one of these little boxes here. So a lot of space and kind of getting a lot of counters in here. So I think a set like this is going to, again, work really well for gameplay. And that's one of my goals is, how can you play the game faster? Because that's where I really think the benefit of these trays come in, is they enable faster setup and faster gameplay. You're not fumbling around looking for counters. So that's our setup, and that's our solution for Silent War 2.0. Now this one, again, it doesn't quite fit in the box perfectly. There's like a 1/4 inch lid lift. I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. So here's what I mean by lid lift. There's like a 1/4 inch lift on the box cover because it doesn't quite all fit in there that way. But all things considered, it's always trying to balance that, how much space you've got, not get a lid lift, get things organized, minimize the amount of trays, and yet have them be in a nice organized fashion. So all those things considered, I'm really happy with the solution for Silent War 2.0. This is a very simple solution, but it fits into the box perfectly. This is Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 1. Of all the kits I've made, this one's actually the best seller. One reason, because it's super cheap, right? There's only 1 tray, because there's not a ton of counters in the game. But what I really like about this one too is there's a lot of scenarios with the ASL Starter Kit. So you can't really organize them by scenario. You have to kind of organize them by unit type. So we've got the US units down here organized by the quality of the infantry and then the leaders and things like that. Then over here, the Russian infantry, again, organized by quality, Russian leaders, US leaders. All the German units, so elite units are up here, level 1, level 2, and then conscripts are down here. German leaders, all nice and clean. So whenever you're looking to set up a scenario, you just pick out which ones you need and off you go. So I was really happy with how this kit worked out. It's a really super simple solution, but apparently people like it because it's of all the ones I've made, this one sold the most. Another relatively simple kit is for Traces of War from VUCA Simulations. This one again fits into the box very, very well. And this is one where I could have probably gotten these into 1 tray, but again, thinking about how units are organized and to kind of speed up gameplay and setup, I wanted to put them into 2 trays. So we can see here, these are the German units, and the way I organize these, there's only 1 starting setup scenario in the game. There's 2 scenarios in the game, a 4-turn scenario and an 8-turn scenario. But I organize them by that. They both use the same startup. So if you go across and you're picking out the units, like these I believe are all the German startup units, and then these are the German reinforcements and stuff like that as they come in per turn. And it's all organized by that, and then these are German control markers. So this is basically the German tray, and they can use all of their stuff and get at it this way. So this one can be kind of close by with the German player. And then there's more Russian units, and they come in, the reinforcement schedule is different than the Germans. It's more by turn rather than by kind of getting replacement units and stuff like that. So what I've done here is, these are all our starting units, and then these are marked with the turns they appear in here. So 1st turn, 2nd turn, 3rd turn, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and so on like that. I think actually this is the guards unit replacements, I think, or something like that. But these are like 4th turn units. So for the Russian player, these are your startup units, and then as you're going through in turns, you're just picking out your potential reinforcements on a turn-by-turn basis, which is really easy. And then the organizational markers down here. And then this game has, you can either use armored icons or NATO symbols for the armored units. And so I want to use the icons and not the NATO symbols. So I've just put the NATO symbol units here, because you can pick whichever one you want. I put them in their own counter. Of course, if you're going to use the NATO symbols, I would recommend switching these too. One thing I should mention too, that there's photographs. If you buy a kit from Cube4Me, there's photographs of every tray in the kit up on their website, so you can duplicate this exact kind of order that I've been able to create with this set. But a really neat set. I used this one playing the game, and it made things really, really fast to kind of go through and set up. So I was really happy with this one, and everything fits back in the box just perfectly too. I wanted to show Nevsky. There's another kit I put together. I was really happy with this one because this is one of the first kits I did that has wooden blocks in it as well. And I'll show another game that's that way too. But we have these Lord mats here. We're going to pull those off to the side. Space was kind of a little bit tricky to figure out with this one, but I was able to use one of these deeper, smaller tray sets. So the 15mm 12 compartment trays to store all of the wooden blocks that are here for the various military units that are in the game. And again, they're all organized by type, so it should be really easy to keep these off to the side of the game. You don't have to pull anything out of baggies or anything like that. They're all just right there, organized by type. These are the Lords, Teutons, and Rus and stuff like that. Really easy to pick up and access, so I was really happy with how this worked out. And to get these blocks in here, I had to use one of those deeper trays. The nice thing too about using a half-size tray here is that I was able then to get the cards back into the box and get the box nice and closed. But let's take a look at those solutions here too. There are 2 decks of cards that come with the game, one for the Teutons and one's for the Russians, and each of their different card sets are in one of these boxes as well. So that works out really well. Left the dice in their bags, and then there's a number of counters, both for kind of the Lords and things like that, for keeping track of their service times, for some of the markers for provender and coin and stuff like that, for sleds and victory points here and things like that. So I was able to store all of these in various counters around here too, so everything is nice and organized and easy to access. Again, when I play, I keep this off to the side so that you can just kind of reach in and pick these out as you need them. Makes it really easy to keep them organized, and then putting them back, again, it's just the same kind of thing. You're dropping them right back where they came from. Siege markers, coin, and everything like that. So I was really happy, especially coin games, because they have this blend often of counters and then wooden pieces, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work for a storage solution, but I really like how this one turned out, and it's really, again, kind of the big thing is that it really speeds up, I think, setup and then gameplay, and makes it so much, it's a significant savings in time, and you're spending less time fiddling for things and more time playing the game. So there's Nevsky. Speaking of wooden blocks, I wanted to show what I did with Skies Above Britain, because this has 2 challenges to it. One, a ton of cards. But as you can see, these trays, these are the unsleeved card holders. If you have sleeved card holders, they're going to stack a little bit differently. It's a little bit of a tighter fit, and you're going to have a little bit of a lift on your box lid. But basically, I was able to, for the most part, get these cards organized by the different various types of decks using different thicknesses of these card packs, because these card tracks have thick one and then thin ones here too. And the nice thing about these sets is you don't have to do all of the thinking, any of the thinking at all, because they're all, you can go to the Cube4Me website and they have them listed by the game, and then you just punch the things that you want for the game, whether you want the card trays or just the counter trays and things like that, and it's all sorted out. So these are the 8 card decks, and these are for the thicker squadrons, the German counters here too. But then I wanted to show this one as well, because a lot of games have blocks in them, and we can see here these are the blocks for the aircraft and stuff like that, for your squadrons, and these work really nicely. So you're able to get 8 into a different one here. All 32 of them fit up in here perfectly fine. It's able to get the dice in this one too, but all the markers and things like that stored in this tray makes it nice and easy to play. Everything in one tray, and then all the card decks in here too. The tricky part with this one as well was getting everything to fit back into the box, but I'm happy to say there's no lid lift on this one. They work out really well, because you can stack 2 of these thinner card trays right here. Thicker ones go side by side. They all fit in, and basically can get 8 across really easily. Oops, that worked out even well. We can pull that over here. Nice and snug, goes back in, and we don't have any lid lift. So all of your cards nice and organized, all your counters in one tray. Really neat solution. I think that speeds up gameplay. This one, the Russian campaign, did present a conundrum. The conundrum is that it has multiple scenarios, and it has its campaign game. And sometimes what I'll do with the extra counters that extra counters that don't have anything on them, I will take them and I'll just put them in a little baggie and put them off to the side, especially if the counter tray solution is tight. I was able to use 2 thin trays for this one. Now again, you could use 1 thicker tray, but I feel like it's really helpful to have the different nationalities into different trays here so that you're not kind of fighting over the same tray set. And it's also, by minimizing the number of counters in each compartment, it makes the setup kind of fast. Now, this game has a number of scenarios, and it has its campaign game, which creates a problem because it's not really easy to organize these by unit type, and it's not really easy to set them up by unit type. So for the pictures on this tray set, if you get this one, I've organized them by the campaign, by the starting units, and then when the units come in, much like I did for Traces of War. So these are all chronologically ordered for, and then there's extra units for like, scenarios and alternative rules and all those kinds of things. Those are come after this. But for the most part, they're organized by the campaign game. If there's one scenario you play a lot of, you're gonna have to use the scenario track to go then look at the campaign game, figure out where it is and grab it. So there is no perfect solution, I think, for this one with a game that has so many scenarios and not really an easy unit organization system here, but I think it works out really well, especially if you're gonna play the campaign game. This is all queued up and ready to go. Likewise, for the German units here, the same type of thing, all queued up and ready to go with the order of battle from the campaign game, and they're all organized like this with extra units and the bonus units and kind of the alternative rule units down here too. And then some of the markers scattered out in each of the bottom trays. But a nice clean solution for a situation that I think it will definitely speed up gameplay. I think it definitely makes it faster in terms of hunting around for units, and especially something like this. If these are, in just baggies and things like that, with all the alternative rules, it's really hard to identify, I think, which unit goes where. And a nice clean fit. This is plenty of room to work with in this box, so it's a nice big box and everything fits and it all closes down. Plum Island Horror, another game. I was really happy with this solution as well too, because this one presents a lot of challenges. You've got all different sizes of counters and cards and bags and everything like that, and just a ton of stuff inside this box and cubes and everything. So I just lay the 2 baggies on top like this. I put the dice in this little space, a couple of extra units in a baggie. I put the horrors. They have tarot card size trays now, which are really handy if you've got big units or just a ton of things that are exactly the same. So these are all the horrors, the enemies in the game, and I've got them all in one tray. And you're constantly accessing these when you're playing. So by using it here, you can just set this right beside the map, easy in and out, easy storage. You just dump them all back in when you're done, and they all work like that. So something that I think is accessed a lot in the game, having them in a separate little compartment can be really helpful. Then here we have all of our cards in the nice thick card sets here, and I tested the sleeve solution. These will all fit if you sleeve these as well too. You need a couple of extra card deck holders, but they work if you sleeve them as well. This is a totally optional one. You could put these in a bag, but I was able to fit the stands for the units into one thick card tray as well. And then these are thinner cubes, which fit really nicely into the small, thin card tray holders. Then we come to all of the counters in one nice, thick tray. Fairly well organized. I was really happy how these fit because, as we can see, we've got some unique sizes here for these stands and stuff like that. Actually, they should go this way is better, right? These are unique sizes, but they fit perfectly nice and snug inside here, and I was able to spread them out. So these are the different factions for the player. These are some of the enemies, superhero, the kind of the boss enemies. Then we've got the kind of the neutral ones that can join your side from the city. All the marker circular ones, they all fit in kind of nice. Then we've got the square ones down here, all organized by type to make it really easy to access as you're playing the game. So I was really happy with this one in terms of being able to get all of the units into one tray, except for these high frequency horrors, which work really well in this own little tarot card. And then the fact that everything fits back into the box too really easily was a really nice bonus for this one too, because the last thing you want to have is when stuff is scattered all over the place and you can't get it back into the box. So I was really happy with the Plum Island Horror solution. I've saved my 2 kind of what I call my magnum opus challenges for the end here. Panzer North Africa. You might be saying, why? Well, if you have Panzer North Africa, you know that there is almost no space left over in the box. It's a 3.5-inch box, and it really should have been a 4-inch box, because there are a ton of counters. You've got about 1,000 counters, I think it is, and you've got about 1 inch of storage space to work with, which is essentially really not very much to work with. And you've got this big pile of stuff that fills up the box. Really, again, should have been a 4-inch box to make a kind of a manageable storage solution. But I wanted to show what I was able to do to kind of make it work. So I spread the data cards out here. This is a tarot card box that we just looked at in the Plum Island Horror. And they have all these kind of map overlays that you can use. And I was able to fit most of them into this tarot card box, then place it in here and make this all work out at the same height in Panzer, North Africa. Then everything else sits back into the box like that. And then we get the counters in 2 trays. What's really nice, I think, about these is the armored units, well, the vehicular units in the game, all fit really nicely into this one thin tray. And again, to give you an idea on space of these and stuff like that, how much in here, there are, what these are 4 counters high, I believe. So there's 16 in each one. And then there's 20 trays. So 320 counters fit nice and snug and nice and organized in here, which makes it really easy again, kind of. Now these counters are printed on both sides with different units, but I was able to get one of every face-up unit on this side as we're looking at them. Now they all didn't quite fit in here because there's, I think, 350 something of these full larger size counters, but the rest of everything else, because I had so little space to work at, this isn't ideal, right? Because I had to jam a number of different markers in the same box. Like normally I'd like to spread these out a little bit, but I really hope the most I could work with is this one thick tray and one thin tray to get everything else in. So we've got unique vehicles, of which there's only one, like this aircraft, and then leaders for the nationalities over here, infantry units over here. Some of the markers, again, go in here. But again, things I think stay fairly well organized, so you're going to be able to tell which marker is in which container and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be very, very playable and very easy to work with. Although, again, just the fact that you're working with an inch of space to get over 1,000 counters back into the box. And one thing with these too, if you have half-inch counters on these deep trays, they can hold 9 across and they can hold 8 high. That's 72. 72 times 20 is 1,440 counters can go into one of these trays if you stuff them in with no sense of organization. I try to avoid that where possible, and I'll show that in the next solution, is that I think sometimes it's better to split them up over 2 trays because it's going to save so much time in hunting things down and trying to find them. But if you really need to, you can get a ton of stuff into one tray. Now, this has got a little bit of a lid lift. I think it's like 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch on this one. Actually, even less. It's like barely 1/4 of an inch lid lift on this one. So I was really happy to get over 1,000 counters back into 1 inch of space with this one. It worked out really, really well. And I think that's one of the advantages over these tray systems, is that they hold so many counters compared to other solutions I've seen. And last but not least, my magnum opus, I think, Redstrike, 2,000 counters. Now, fortunately, this is a massive box. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the big box, because a regular size box just would not have had any solution. So by the fact that it had a lot of space to work with on this one, I was really able to come up with what I think is an elegant solution for this. And it all fits back in nice and snug. So we get the dice here. There are some cards in here as well. So I get the cards in 2 of these regular card deck holders. There are a ton of these hit point markers here for these units. I couldn't get them all into one of these, but I got them into one tray holder, most of them. So I can see, again, this would be something you'll put off on the side when you're playing, so you can access these hit point markers here. And that left enough space to get in one of these half trays. Now, I want to show, this one has 2,000 counters, and one of the things you'll know if you start to play around with this game is that setup is so detailed. And so I could have fit these into fewer trays, absolutely. But I tested them with a thicker tray set, and what I found was it really slowed down the setup, because instead of looking through like what I've got here, about 10 to 12 to sometimes 20 units in a compartment, there were many more. There were like 30 or so. And it was just taking me too long to find the units as I was looking for them in setup. And the way I organize these, there's some variations on a theme, but largely by the nationality. And then each one of these units, for example, the air units have these identifiers, and they all start by alphanumeric numbers. So I've got, for example, these are Russian air units 100. These are 12s. So they all go in alphanumeric order around here. So as you're looking on those startup sheets that have the picture of the unit. You see like, okay, Russian, it's an air unit, it's number 180. I can go, okay, 100, 120, 120, 180s are right in here. And you know it's one of these 12 units, which makes it really easy to go in and pick up and find the setup. So the priority with this was not necessarily minimizing the tray sets, but minimizing the time that it takes to set the game up. And with that, I'm really, really happy with the solution. Again, all of these pictures of this tray set are on the Cube4Me game website. So if you get this game, you can see it, you can see how they were organized. If I were going to play this one a lot, I would probably also label these boxes with the ones that I had in there, so when you're replacing them, it'll go in even faster. And then with the ground unit, so that was for like air units for both sides, were organized that way by nationality and that alphanumeric designation. Then for the ground units, these are organized by, I think it is divisional headquarters. So each headquarters unit, sometimes splitting 1 or 2 per compartment, but for the most part, you should be able to look at that color and say, oh, okay, I just need to find the headquarter for that one, find the headquarter for it, and then it goes into the right spot like that. So everything's, and you can see these headquarter units. I tried to put those in top so you can see them really quickly as you're going through and trying to find them. So that was this solution here. Everything back into the box, and I'm really happy with how fast it's made setup. You know, I've kind of tested it, setting the game up and stuff like that, and it worked really, really well, especially because things are broken up by nationality. So if you've got 2 players, you can spread them out and do them that way. Here's the US or the NATO air units, again, by nationality, and then by the air designation, by the numerical designation in the top right corner. So I really like this solution. It took a long time to come up with it. It is, again, 2,000 counters and meticulous setup instructions within these scenarios and the battles and the campaign games in particular. So I'm really happy with, I think, how this is, works in terms of speeding up setup, because I think this, in something like this, in a game so complex, it can save, an hour or so, I think, just setting the game up. It just takes so long if you're hunting around for units and can't find them. So that's why I used multiple trays for this one, rather than trying to stuff them into deeper trays to speed up the setup. It's, it costs an extra like $6-7 I get to get the extra 2 trays. So it is a little bit more of an expensive set, but I think that extra cost is going to pay for itself more double over in terms of speeding up your setup and making the gameplay more enjoyable. So there you have it, 10 different tray solutions from 10 different games that presented all sorts of different challenges in terms of orders of battle, speeding up setup, trying to get the minimum amount of trays, trying to get it all back into the box, try to have it make sense and things like that. All of these tray sets are on Cube4Me site. So if you saw Russian campaign, you're like, you want the Cube4Me tray set for that, you can go to their site, you can search for Russian campaign, and it'll pull up the tray set, and you just click on it, and those are the pieces that go right in. So you don't have to do any of the thinking or the organizing with the standard sets that are there. They also have a universal tray set that's a collection of various trays if you want to make your own tray sets and use them in that way too. You'll also need the link to the Cube4Me site to enter the contest to be one of 2 people that win a $50 store credit to Cube4Me, good across the world except for a couple of countries. And how you enter that is down below in the video description. I'll also put it in the first comment. You'll see a link to a Google form. The Google form has 3 questions on it. They're not super hard, but you can find the answers to all 3 of the questions on the Cube4Me website. It'll probably take you 5 minutes at the most. So you want to click on that link to open up the form, click on the Cube4Me website, open up the website, and then find the answers to those questions on the Cube4Me website and pick the right multiple choice answer in the form. Now, to prevent multiple entries, I also have to take people's email addresses. After the contest is over, I destroy those. I have no interest in keeping, sharing, or holding on to your email addresses. So as soon as we connect with the winners and give out the certificates, those are all going to get destroyed and the sheet gets deleted. I'll be picking the winners to the contest, to the drawing, on about March 15th. There'll be a post on the community channel, and I'll put it out on Twitter, and I'll reach out to the 2 winners via email to see who gets to win the $50 gift certificates to Cube4Me. If you'd like to see one of these games in action, here's a link to the Nevsky playthrough, which is an enjoyable playthrough of one of the introductory scenarios. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.